Hola, and welcome to today's lesson about conjugating verbs like gustar in Español with Señorita Harders. These are some of the many verbs that operate just like the verb gustar. We will learn more about them today. Caer, doler, encantar, interesar, molestar, quedar, and tocar. If you would like a quick refresher on the verb gustar before we get started, please click on the link above or in the description below to go back and watch the video about conjugating the verb gustar. All right, are you ready? Let's dive in. Just like with the verb gustar, we will be using our indirect object pronouns. Me, te, le, nos, os, and les. If you are not familiar with indirect object pronouns, I have a video about that too that you can check out in the description. Okay, let's do a quick review of conjugating the verb gustar. When used before an infinitive verb or a singular noun, we will conjugate the verb gustar in the third person singular form, gusta. And when it's used before a plural noun, we will use the third person plural form of the verb, gustan. Or in short, when the subject adds an S, the verb adds an N. So I know you already know how to conjugate the verb gustar. Let's take a look at our next verb, caer. The verb caer means to fall, but when we use it like gustar, it actually changes the meaning. And it becomes another way to say I like, just like gustar. However, this verb is often used in conjunction with the words bien or mal. For example, me cae bien means I like, and me cae mal means I don't like. While we use gustar to talk about liking different activities or things, we use caer to talk about liking people. So let's give it a try. Beyoncé, ¿te cae bien? That means, do you like Beyoncé as a person? And you would respond with, sí, me cae bien, or no, me cae mal. Let's try another example together. Zendaya, ¿te cae bien? Great job! This is a great activity to practice with a partner. You can take turns asking each other if you like different celebrities. Let's try some more together. Cardi B, ¿te cae bien? Kim Kardashian, ¿te cae bien? Miley Cyrus, ¿te cae bien? Lindsay Lohan, ¿te cae bien? Excellent work. We can also use the phrase te cae bien to ask if certain foods sit well with you. For example, ¿la salsa picante te cae bien? That means, does spicy salsa sit well with you? You can respond the same way as you did before. Sí, me cae bien, meaning yes, the spicy salsa sits well with me. Or no me cae mal, meaning the salsa does not sit well with me. But what if we're talking about beans or frijoles? Now we have to say, te caen bien. Notice that when the subject is plural, the verb has to be plural too. Or as we said earlier, if the subject adds an S, then the verb adds an N. ¿Te cae bien los frijoles? You can respond by saying, sí, me caen bien, or no, me caen mal. Remember to use the plural verb in your answer. Okay, we've talked about gustar and caer. Now let's take a look at our next verb, doler. Doler means to hurt. And just like the verb gustar, we will use the third person singular when it comes to a verb or a singular, when it comes before a verb or a singular noun. Duele. And when the verb comes before a plural noun, we will use the plural form of the verb, duelen. Notice that the verb doler is a stem changing verb. That means that the O in doler becomes a UE when we conjugate it. Me duele pensar. It hurts me to think. We use duele in this case because it comes before the verb pensar. Me duele la cabeza. We would translate this as my head hurts. Again, we will use duele because it comes before a singular noun, la cabeza. Me duelen los oídos. We translate this as my ears hurt. Notice we use the plural form of the verb duelen with the plural noun, oídos. Great job. Okay, now let's take a look at the next verb, encantar. The word encantar means to enchant, but most of the time we simply translate this word as to love. And just like the verb gustar, we will use encantar or encanta when it comes before a verb or a singular noun. And we use encantan when it comes before a plural noun. Let's take a look at some examples together. Me encanta estar contigo. This literally means to be with you enchants me. But we translate this simply as I love to be with you. Me encanta tu sonrisa. Literally, this means your smile enchants me. Or as we say in plain English, I love your smile. Me encantan tus ojos. Your eyes enchant me. Or in plain English, I love your eyes. And if you're feeling really romantic, you might say something like, Me encantas tú. You enchant me. Or simply put, I love you. Another verb like gustar is interesar. Interesar means to interest or to find something interesting. And just like the verb gustar, we will use interesa before a verb or a singular noun and interesan before a plural noun. Let's take a look at some examples using interesar together. Me interesa leer. Reading interests me. Or, as we also say in English, I'm interested in reading. Me interesa este libro. This book interests me. Notice we're only talking about one specific book. So because we're talking about a singular noun, the verb is also in the singular form, interesa. But if we like a lot of books, we'll say, me interesan los libros. Books interest me. Notice again, because we're talking about a plural noun, books in general, we have to use the plural verb interesan. Oh, and you can also use this verb when you're feeling romantic to say, me interesas tú. You interest me. Notice that the verb now has the as ending, which goes with the tú subject pronoun. Okay, now let's take a look at the next verb, molestar. The verb molestar means to annoy. And just like gustar, we say molesta when it comes before a verb or a singular noun. And we add an N to the verb to make it molestan when it comes before a plural noun. Let's look at some examples together. Me molesta escucharte. To listen to you annoys me. Or, as we would say in plain English, it annoys me to listen to you. Me molesta mi hermano. My brother annoys me. Because you're talking about one specific person that's annoying you, your brother, we're going to say molesta. Me molestan tus gritos. Your shouts annoy me. Notice again, because we're using the plural noun gritos, then we need to make the verb plural too by adding an N. Molestan. And you can also use this phrase if you're talking to someone that's annoying you and say, me molestas tú. You annoy me. All right, there are only two verbs left. Let's take a look at the verb quedar. Quedar means to stay, but when we use it like the verb gustar, it actually changes the meaning. So instead, it means to fit. And unlike the verb gustar, the verb quedar comes before adjectives instead of nouns. Let's take a look at some examples together. La camisa me queda apretada. This literally translates as the shirt fits me tight. Notice that the verb quedar comes directly before the adjective apretada, which means tight. Also notice that the adjective apretada ends in a because it is describing la camisa, which is also feminine and singular. Okay, let's take a look at another example. La sudadera me queda floja. The sweatshirt fits me loose. Again, we see that la sudadera, which is feminine and singular, has to match the adjective floja, which is also feminine and singular. And the verb queda also has to match and be singular too. Los pantalones me quedan flojos. Notice that the noun los pantalones is plural and masculine, and the adjective flojos is also plural and masculine. And since the noun and the adjective are plural, then the verb needs to be plural too. So remember, when we add an S to the noun, we add an N to the verb. Quedan. Los pantalones me quedan flojos. All right, now you try. La camisa me blank corta. How will we conjugate the verb quedar in this sentence? Muy bien. La camisa me queda corta. The shirt fits me short. Again, we have to use the singular form of the verb queda to go with the singular noun. Los shorts me blank cortos. What form of the verb quedar will go in the blank here? Quedan. Great job. Remember, if the noun and the adjective are plural, then we will have to make the verb plural by adding an N. Let's try a few more. Esta blusa me blank blank. How will we conjugate the verb quedar in this sentence? Great. Esta blusa me queda. We need a singular verb to go with the singular noun. All right, now let's take a look at the adjective. How do we say this blouse fits me long? Esta blusa me queda larga. Great job. Did you remember to add an A to larga to make it singular and feminine, just like the noun blusa? Let's try another one. Mi blusa me blank grande. My blouse fits me large. How will we conjugate quedar in this sentence? Mi blusa me queda grande. Excelente. Notice in this example that the adjective grande ends in E, so we won't have to change the ending. All right, one more example before we move on. Mis pantalones me. How will we say my pants fit me long? How will you fill in these blanks? Mis pantalones me quedan largos. Great job. Did you remember to make the verb and the adjective plural? As you are working in Spanish, you need to constantly be checking yourself and asking, is it singular? Is it plural? Is it masculine? Is it feminine? Nouns and adjectives must match in both number and gender. And nouns, adjectives, and verbs need to match in number because verbs do not have gender. All right, now let's take a look at our very last verb, tocar. The verb tocar means to touch, but when we use it like gustar, it can change the meaning a little bit. So before we talk about how it changes meaning, let's take a look at how we will conjugate this verb. Just like gustar, when tocar becomes before a verb or a singular noun, we will say toca. And when it comes before a plural noun, we will make the verb plural by adding an N, tocan. All right, one of the ways that we use tocar is to say that it is someone's turn. For example, if you're playing a game of cards, you might say, me toca jugar, meaning it's my turn to play. Notice that because tocar is coming before another verb, jugar, we will conjugate it by saying toca. Another common way you'll hear people say this verb tocar is by saying something like me toca limpiar, meaning it's my turn to clean or I have to clean. We can also use tocar before a noun. Me toca el corazón. It touches my heart. Or you could say something like this. Las canciones románticas me tocan el corazón. Romantic songs touch my heart. Notice that las canciones románticas is plural, so we need to make the verb plural too. Tocan. Okay, practiquemos. How will we conjugate the verb gustar in this sentence? Nos blank jugar fútbol. Muy bien. Nos gusta jugar fútbol. How did you know to use gusta? We are going to look at what immediately follows the verb for our clues. We use gusta because it comes before another verb, jugar. How would you say, I like Miss Harders? Señorita Harders me blank bien. Muy bien. Señorita Harders me cae bien. In this case, we had to look at the subject at the beginning of the sentence in order to see how to conjugate this verb. How would you conjugate doler in this sentence? Me blank el estómago. My stomach hurts me. Wow, buen trabajo. Me duele el estómago. Again, we'll look at the noun that directly follows the verb. In this case, el estómago is singular, so our verb will also be singular. Me duele. What about in this example? Me blank bailar. How would you say, I love to dance? Me encanta bailar. Great job. How did you know to use encanta? If you said that it comes before a verb, you are right. Let's look at another example. Te blank las películas. How would you say, you are interested in the movies? Te interesan las películas. How did you know that you were going to use interesan instead of interesa? Again, we're going to take a look at what comes directly after the verb for our clues. Las películas is plural, so that means our verb has to be plural too. When we add an S to our noun, we add an N to our verb. Interesan. How would you say cats annoy me or annoy him? Le blank los gatos. Le molestan los gatos. How did you know that it was molestan and not molesta? We're going to take a look at what comes directly after the verb, los gatos. Since the noun los gatos is plural, we need to make our verb plural too. When we add an N to our noun, when we add an S to our noun, we add an N to our verb. La camisa me blank floja. How will we conjugate quedar in order to say the shirt fits me loose? La camisa me queda floja. Great job. How did you know that it was queda instead of quedan? In this case, because we have an adjective that comes after the verb, we're going to look to the subject at the front of the sentence in order to figure out how to conjugate the verb quedar. La camisa is singular, so our verb quedar has to also be singular. La camisa me queda floja. How would you conjugate the verb tocar in this sentence? Nos blank estudiar. We have to study, or it's our turn to study. Nos toca estudiar. Great job. How did you know that the verb was toca instead of tocan? If you said that it's because it comes before a verb, you are correct. How did you do conjugating verbs like gustar in Spanish? Be sure to comment below. I hope that this video about conjugating verbs like gustar was helpful for you. Please like and subscribe to learn more Spanish with Srta Harders. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my Teachers Pay Teachers store linked below for more resources, games, puzzles, and activities to help you learn Español. Adiós!